Hi my fellow travelers and scuba divers, welcome back to my channel. In this video, we're taking you to experience the underwater world around Tokoriki Island in Fiji. Scott and I went on this short trip in March and had the most amazing time for diving, photography and video shooting. I'm quite excited about this one as it is the first underwater video shot with my Sony A6400 entirely. We booked this trip taking a chance on the weather and was rewarded with sunny days, warm waters and calm conditions. We were also lucky to see some amazing marine life during the 8 dives we did in 3 days. I was really excited to dive with Tokoriki Diving for the 4th time. It was lovely to see the familiar faces and diving with my trusted operator again. Unfortunately, the owners Alex and Will were not on the island at the time, but I'm sure we'll see them next time round. One thing that certainly made our diving experience better is that we both bought our own regulator sets and our dive computers. Using our own equipment really did give us a lot more confidence and comfort in the dives, particularly for someone like me who didn't grow up around water. Hindsight, I should have invested in them a long time ago. This dive I'm showing is our favorite dive at Dunks Canyon. The visibility was amazing, and it is just such a beautiful dive site with a steep drop-off to about 50 meters, beautiful corals and abundant sea life. Most of the dives we did on this trip were around 18 meters deep, hence it is really hard to get the videos and photos to show the colors. And I'm only learning the basics of video color grading whilst making this video in Final Cut Pro. It took a solid couple of days to do color grading clip by clip. I have also filmed all of the clips in 60 frames per second, which provided a cinematic and smooth effect when I slow them down. Rain had started and the surface condition was slightly choppy and a bit dark underwater. I loved how Scott filmed part of this dive for me, and I loved how he filmed from different angles, which made the film seem more cinematic. I had an unforgettable experience on this dive with the turtle when we swam side by side and looked into each other's eyes for a couple of seconds. I was completely mesmerized by this moment as I felt us connecting and saying hi to each other. However, Scott is convinced that I was harassing the poor little guy and he couldn't wait to get away from me. I think the turtle would disagree. Before moving on, I would like to share some underwater photos I took during these dives. I love photography and especially enjoying taking photos on my adventures. As a scuba diver, I'm very lucky to be able to take photos underwater as well. However, anyone who has tried underwater photography understands that this is a totally different beast. The lighting condition, visibility, constantly changing white balance, movement of water and fish, and divers' buoyancy control have all made underwater photography challenging. Moreover, handling camera gear underwater also feels quite fiddly through the camera housing. Post-shooting, a lot of time is spent to recover the colors in Lightroom that would otherwise look just bluish. Shooting with a lighting strobe would make both shooting and editing easier, but you need to be able to handle more gear underwater. My photos are all taken without lighting strobes, hence it is quite helpful to get a lens with maximum aperture to let in as much light as possible. It is worth mentioning that some of the photos seem to be blurred out around the edges, and this is because I'm using a wide-angle lens with a dome port on the camera housing. A dome port makes taking half-and-half photos possible. I've included my equipment information at the end of the video in case you're interested.
Supermarket, the name of this dive site. So yeah, before we do a dive brief, let me just tell you the layout of the island. This is Mana Island Resorts. Yeah.
The supermarket is one of my favorite dive sites here. Being a shark dive, it has never disappointed. Our dive guide Save mentioned that this is where shark feeding used to take place. And sharks have been conditioned to the engine sound of the boats, and this is why we saw many sharks at the first half of the dive. Just make sure you're prepared to look around whilst you're descending, as they came in quickly from every direction. A school of barracudas took us by surprise just as I was filming a huge school of red bass. Always look around even when you're focused on something, as you never know what you may come across. I turned my head to the deep blue and noticed these barracudas. Without too much thinking, I followed them to see if I can record this amazing moment. I'm quite pleased with how a few photos came out from this encounter. Scott also seemed to have made friends with this little fish who followed him around until he surfaced.
So you happy you saw that school of barracuda, baby?
Oh my god, baby, are you kidding me? The barracudas!
Huh?
I went chasing them.
I know, I saw it.
I loved the surface time between the dives equally. Joe and Save took us to the nearby Matamanoa Island to chill before our next dive. It felt so freeing to float in the calm, clear waters, and whilst waiting for the nitrogen in our bodies to dissipate. Here comes another turtle that was spotted on the Bird Rock dive. This dive was so memorable as there were schools of fusiliers everywhere. This is our muck-around dive with no specific dive objectives, but to chill and relax and enjoy the underwater world. With my new regulator set and dive computer, I felt so much more confident, enjoying ease of breathing and the peace of mind knowing exactly where I am all the time. It was so much fun just rolling around and feeling like a member of the fish family. Another surprise on this dive is an eagle ray. Scott and Save stayed put whilst I tried to follow him. yet the little fella appeared right in front of them and said a quick hello before flying off to the deep blue. Good times always come to an end so quickly. It is time to say goodbye and head back home. Tide was so low that we needed to be towed by jet ski to the large transfer boat. I forgot to mention that I have completed my 100th dive on this trip as well. I loved diving without a wetsuit and will certainly earmark this time of the year for future dives. Here's the final tip. Do go for a snorkel on the house reef if you're not diving. It was a long swim to the drop-off, but we were rewarded with a taming sea life and another lone eagle ray. Goodbye, my friends. Till the next time.